I now recognize myself for an opening statement. Today's subcommittee hearing will examine the unprecedented numbers of Chinese foreign nationals crossing the border and whether this represents a risk to Homeland Security. I think we have a visual. And there it is. Border Patrol records show that from 2007 to 2021, encounters of Chinese nationals illegally entering the United States at the southwest border were relatively rare, averaging a little over 1,000 per year. That changed dramatically under the Biden administration, rising from 1,970 in fiscal year 2022 to 24,048 in fiscal year 2023, an 1,100% increase. In the last 7 months, from October to April, Border Patrol has already encountered 27,496 Chinese nationals, shattering last year's total. At this pace, the full fiscal year will see encounters of illegal Chinese immigrants 2,300% higher than the rate just 2 years ago. This is a national security concern, and it's not a new one. 1 year ago, the current Border Patrol Chief and then Del Rio Sector Chief Jason Owens testified in a transcribed interview with the committee that, quote, "Even without the increase, people coming from the PRC would be of concern to me. That's always going to be a group we look at more closely and work with our partners with FBI to make sure they don't pose a threat," end quote. I agree that there is a serious national security concern, and we should be looking closely at individuals coming from communist China, the United States' greatest adversary on the world stage. Unfortunately, under the Biden administration, Border Patrol agents have been instructed that when processing Chinese nationals, they should conduct short, basic interviews that include only generic background questions instead of in-depth interviews. In other words, there is no serious vetting. These questions simply ask about military service, education, birthplace in China, employment, and political affiliation with the CCP. While agents only proceed to an in-depth interview if one of the answers in the basic interview is flagged, it begs the question, how likely is it that someone showing up at the border is going to admit that they are here to do the bidding of the Chinese Communist Party or perhaps the People's Liberation Army? Instead, that person will likely provide the answers their smugglers told them to give Border Patrol. Just give the right answers and come right on into the homeland. These limited interviews, combined with a lack of reliable information from China to verify biographical claims and limited translation services, severely constrain CBP's ability to conduct rigorous vetting for criminal and national security concerns. One Border Patrol sector chief told the committee that it could be difficult to determine the motives of those detained who come from distant countries like China, stating that, quote, "We try our best to figure out why they're coming, but of course that information can be hidden. Their agendas, their ideologies, the reason for them coming could be missed," close quote. This is especially true for gotaways, those who avoid apprehension and who reportedly pay as much as $60,000 to be smuggled illegally into the United States. Some of you may have seen some news made, I think just yesterday, finally a document emerging verifying that the number of gotaways in total is quite large. I think it's about 1.7 million, if I remember correctly, across the Biden administration. But among them, presumably there are some number of Chinese nationals, if the numbers that are showing up at the southwest border is any indication. The government has no idea who the gotaways are or why they are crossing the border and deliberately trying to avoid Border Patrol. But something tells me the motive isn't likely to be above board. Some Chinese nationals may be motivated to seek asylum on legitimate claims of persecution, such as Uyghurs from Xinjiang, but it is more likely that they come for economic reasons or other motives that do not meet the statutory requirements for asylum. And considering the Biden administration's failure to hold China to account, these Chinese nationals also know that it is very unlikely they will ever be returned to China under this administration's policies, even if ordered removed by an immigration judge. Some Chinese nationals may have more nefarious motives for coming to the United States. For example, federal indictments in North Carolina from last month show partnerships between Mexican drug cartels and Chinese transnational criminal organizations engaged in money laundering operations throughout the United States. This was reinforced by testimony from federal counter-narcotics officials in a Senate hearing 2 weeks ago that Chinese criminal organizations have, quote, emerged as the professional money launderers of choice for Mexican drug traffickers, end quote. Recent reporting has also uncovered that Chinese-run marijuana farms are all across the United States, and many of them exploit workers from China. Transnational criminal organizations and the CCP see our open border as opportunity. This surge of Chinese nationals at our border without recent precedent presents a major national security vulnerability ripe for exploitation. It makes no sense that the Biden administration refuses to take common sense steps to secure our border in the face of such obvious threats to our homeland. Instead, we get more of the same catch and release policies that have set the country on this dangerous course for the past 3 years, and all that some can say is that the Congress should codify and institutionalize these very practices. I want to thank our witnesses for being here today, and I look forward to their testimony.